Okay. Hey, everyone. It is April the 30th, and I'm coming to you with another short edition on the television show Moon Knight. Although today I'm going to look specifically at the comic book to see what kind of information is provided there. I don't have any of the comic books, so I can't say I've read them, but what I'm going to do is I've looked at a few different sites, and then I'm just going to kind of cross-reference that with a little bit that's on Wikipedia, which is, it's a decent overall narrative. It's always what the system wants you to know, so it's useful to use it from that perspective. Just a reminder, we're hitting another real wave of mess in the world. You can expect a new wave. The election, if you want to call it that, in France, and this new task force department that's been created in the United States, which now I understand the whole Elon Musk Twitter thing. I've had a very difficult time understanding what the game plan of that is. And it's obvious that the that the US wanted to implement the new Ministry of Truth into play, and they're going to use Elon Musk and Twitter as sort of a good cop, bad cop, or a way that people will still think there's a place where they're going to be able to win. And within 3 or 4 or 5 months or whatever, Twitter will just die and it will be officially ended. And as that officially ends, you'll see the end of the internet. I don't think it's going to take that much longer for the internet that you know it as of right now. That's probably if we're still able to run like a channel like this, and in fact, talk about these things in 6 months, I'm going to be surprised. Funny, here I am talking about a Marvel comic book, a place that was, one of the main parts of Marvel is the superheroes, creating comic book superheroes, and the world, frighteningly, that's what the world needs. Like the world actually needs Batman or Wonder Woman or Spider Man or somebody to show up and actually have the courage and the power and the ability to shake this reality to literally shake the reality completely and get rid of our clown. What does Matt call it? Matt calls it a clown world. The Nephilim. There was a great. Sorry, just bringing up clown. There was a great video done by Conspiracy or Us, I think it was. Oh, maybe 6 months ago, 4 months ago, depicting how the Nephilim, the what you might call the sort of originators or creators or controllers of this realm, that they all had the look of clowns, that the appearance of them, and when you look at the Kachina dolls of the Hopi, the Kachinas are very much looking like clown Joker figures, and so this a lot of what we know of as the origin of clowns and the Hopi Kachina and all these things might be the way of having kept alive the real view or the real image of what I call them influencers, right, of this realm actually appear, so you know them when they show up. And the Kachina like to have the white and black striped figures. If I find some, I'll put them up here, and this because it's all audio. The white and striped figures, um, and it looks so much like interference on a television set, or what would be electromagnetic interference, where the two wavelengths are sort of not fully there. So you don't. It's almost like it would be a being that you kind of see but don't see, or you see like in partial wavelengths. Anyway, the clown world is going to the next level of clown. I mean, on one level, it's absurd. Everything that's happening is absurd, and we can step back and get a laugh at it. But then you have to step out and realize, but it's also at the same time not funny. I mean, it's we are we are close to going over the cliff, and if something pretty major doesn't happen really soon, or if some doorway or portal doesn't open where something really good can actually show up, and there's no indication that it will, right? We have, if we actually look at what we've been given historically, at least, and the clues we've been given historically, so far I can't locate one point where a portal opened and something good came into this realm. If any time a portal opened up, something bad, something worse came into this realm. Um, it doesn't mean I don't think there are portals to something better, but maybe they just, whatever's positive and good won't come in here. All they'll do is open the door and we can leave. I began working on the novel, by the way. So I just started this morning. I'm two or three pages into it, just putting the beginning initial. It's taking a lot of time to try to write my first layout of the beginning of this thing, and it's going to take me some time. And I'm feeling the push to get this done, simply because I don't know how long we've got to even share these conversations with each other, and to really, I'm not really sure. If you're thinking of buying one of my books, and I'm not saying this because I really want a whole bunch of people to buy my books and, make some money off the deal. I'm saying it because I think the books could have value, not just for those of you who are interested in reading them, but could have value because a book has a better chance of surviving through 20 or 30 years than anything electronically stored or internet stored is going to. If you're thinking, if you wanted something, not just mine, I mean, any books, if there's books out there that you think are really valuable, that you think is something that you might still want to be able to have access to in 10 or 15 years, you should get them like in the next 30 to 60 days, because I don't really know how long we're going to be sitting with this. Okay, let's get on to Moon Knight finally. Sorry for the opening disclaimer, but I've got to share with you what I'm seeing. And I mean, we're in a challenging point. So, Moon Knight, the comic book, comes out by Marvel Comics. Now, Marvel Comics, of course, is really interesting because when you think of the main superheroes, none of those are Marvel Comics, right? Batman, Aquaman, some of the main Superman, they're not part of Marvel Comics. The Spider-Man is a Marvel comic, and I did have Spider-Man comics when I was a kid. Captain America, right? Iron Man, Wolverine. Just trying to think of some others off the top of my head. So they're kind of, other than Spider-Man, who's the one who's gotten the over the years the most mm, popular of the group, let's say. It's sort of the second tier of famous, certainly turned into movies, um, famous superheroes, and the superhero is a really valuable metaphor, because if you ask like a 5-year-old boy, it'll be boys, a few girls, but not many boy. And you give them the idea that becoming a superhero is like a career option, they think this is a good idea. They actually think, A, it's possible, and B, it's a really good idea, because the main underlying force of the superhero is that the superhero gains a power that they didn't know they had, that is desperately needed by the planet, and then they use that superhero power anonymously to make the world a better place. Something in, not only does that fit the natural masculine um, urge to protect and to keep reality somewhat in balance. It's the woman's job, you might say, it's the feminine job to let the masculine know what needs to be balanced. It's the feminine's job to be able to look at reality because they can see it better than men and see more quickly, this is the problem, this needs to be fixed. And the superhero goes and fixes it, you might say. So, superhero is actually what do you call that in psychology? An archetype, and actually a deep rooted archetype within the human psyche, just so you know. Now, I'm just flipping through the Wikipedia page, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of the origin of this character and the origin of the connection with Consu and all this kind of stuff. But I want to leave you with, there's been numerous volumes, you might say, or groups of Moon Knight novels, comic novels that have come out. A new one has just come out, April of 2022. It's called Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. And it's claimed it's being released alongside the Disney Plus series with various stories by creative teams Jonathan Hickman, Chris Bocciolo, Mark Guggenheim, and artist Jorge Fornes. Okay, whatever. It's the title. Black, white, and blood. They're hiding the color red by blood. Now you know that subconsciously, but once I've told that to you, the real title is Moon Knight, Black, White, and Red. And those are the three main Hermetic colors. Black, white, and red are along with sometimes yellow if you're adding the fourth stage in, which is sort of a stage between the initial awakening of albedo and white to the final stage of rubedo and red. But generally, the Hermetic tradition can just lay it out as black, white, and red, and that's it. They've put it right in the title, and I think we're seeing what's coming out now as being an inverse of what was there maybe originally. Originally, we might have had Hermetic knowledge being placed into these texts. There might have been the attempt to place Hermetic knowledge, and now we're seeing the Hermetic knowledge in this story twisted around. So, like everything else in this reality, what's 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 light becomes dark, and what's dark becomes light, and you literally confuse everything in this realm. So if we ask about I've got the fictional. You can, if you follow it along, if you call up the Wikipedia page, you can follow it along with me if you feel like it. So they've got the fictional character biography a little ways down, and it says that Mark Spector, who is the official named character, was born in Chicago, Illinois. So there's our first clue: Chicago. Okay, it's a big city in the United States. Yeah, you can make it that. But why do they want the character from Chicago is the first step. And of course, with the exposition and everything I've been writing about the strangeness of the city of Chicago, it opens up our questions right away that he's Chicago, that Chicago is his birthplace. His father is a rabbi who survived Nazi persecution. So now we've got the Second World War Nazi element um, laid over top already of the character's building blocks of life. There's a realm they're calling the other void. Now they're already getting really tricky with the wording because there can't be an other void. The void is the absolute totality. The void is the combination of the nothingness and the everythingness together. It is, if you are having an absolute experience, you reach the void. So to now start calling something the other void means you're already talking about an inverse. You're talking about again a manufactured fake void. It says it's a realm outside normal time and space because the void itself isn't a realm. There is no time and space there, but it's not outside or inside of it. Time and space exist, you might say, because of the void, but there is no time and space in the void. So we've already got this weird presentation. And it has the entity Consu, once worshipped as the moon god by the people of ancient Egypt, becomes interested in Mark. Okay, it comes in now. If you go to the television show and you look at images of Consu in the show, I think it's only been in one or two episodes, maybe, but Consu is always shown in the television show part of this as very similar to Hute, very similar to the ibis bird, and because of the connection with the moon, there is this connection with Thoth. So when I'm at the temple of Khonsu in Karnak, there's beautiful figures of, like I say, Thoth on the walls in his ibis form, really really beautiful carvings, and then there's Thoth as the baboon. But that's not Khonsu, because if you go look up statue of Khonsu, for example, on Google search, you're going to get images of Khonsu either looking similar to Ptah in a very similar um, cap with the lock of hair, with the false beard, and generally holding the Uaz scepter. Sometimes he's also holding the scepter of Set as well. Otherwise, he's usually depicted as partial falcon-headed, so similar in a sense to Horus, which is with the moon disk on his head, which is interesting because Horus Horketi is all about the Horus of the horizon, the rising of the sun. So the depictions in ancient Egypt of Khonsu are all connected similarly to Horus and young Horus specifically, or and even in the form I'm saying looks like Ptah, that form also looks like young Horus. If you see depictions of Horus the child, who is always considered a healer, there's some beautiful statues or relief carvings in the Cairo Museum. Um, one which is very similar, actually, to the story of Saint George and the Dragon. Um, anyway, so there's much more of a Horus symbolism, but the television show is trying to depict Tehute, and Tehute, of course, being the Hermetic god of Egypt or the Hermetic teacher of Egypt, becoming Hermes and Hermetic alchemic tradition. So we're seeing already this change. But anyway, in the comic book, Kansu has chosen him as a child, and it's because Mark is claimed to have a very weak mind that makes him vulnerable to this psychic connection, and that is why Kansu chooses him to be his knight and avatar. So it says it very to be his knight and avatar. So if you're going to choose a knight, like if you're, this is just me. If I'm going to choose a knight to put on a white horse and ride in and, be a protector and savior, I don't want someone with a weak mind. I want someone who is very clear, strong, courageous. I mean, so right away, it's this very, very strange uh, thing. Okay, it goes through some experiences that aren't important. We find out that there's all of a sudden the specter becomes showing signs of dissociative identity disorder. Um, and that's a very weird thing to want to bring in the book, right? Also known as multiple personality disorder. Why they want to bring that into the story is a question. It's something that, of course, the book, The Holographic Universe, goes into in quite a bit of detail, discussing how the changing personalities of somebody with this disorder, how they're not just they actually act different, their body changes, even to the point that illness and disease will literally disappear in the body. That they could have one personality could have an actual disease in the body, like testable, and certain marks on the body and what do you call them, like moles and scars. When they shift to the other personality, the moles, the scars, and the illness and the disease disappear. Like this is like recorded stuff, like actual tested fact. They have the disease in one body, they don't have it in the other body. um, so why they want to bring the character and claim this is part of the story is also to be questioned as to why this is important. But Mark soon believes he's meeting this young boy named Stephen Grant, but doesn't realize that that's himself, that he has got these two different personality disorders. Now, where this comes from, because there had been a fight shortly after the Kansu had chosen Mark, where there's another rabbi who is really a Nazi, um, trying to kill Jews, is fought by Mark, and but this Rabbi Perlman disappears. So there's also this possibility that that is dealing with some sort of mental MK Ultra programming, um, symbolism placed in the book. And I don't have the comic book. I can't read it to go through the detail of it. I eventually I'd like to. Um, if I can find easy access to it, I'll read it. But I'm just giving you things that seem strange to me. So now he realizes he's got these two personalities. But then in a vision, Kansu comes to Mark, promising him to one day heal the boy's mind. Okay, why not just heal it? Why does Khonsu need to have the chosen knight, the chosen avatar, to be in this mental mess? Doesn't make sense. He then begins as a teenager to have a third personality, Jake Lockley. Um, and it's after this that the parents send him to a psychiatric hospital. When he's released to attend his father's funeral, he escapes and joins the U.S. Marines, where he becomes a combat special forces what was the force recon and a heavyweight boxer. This is until the Marines discover he lied on his paperwork and find out his history of mental illness. He discharges him, where he becomes a boxer in Baghdad. So now he's in Sumeria, right? Now he's in Sumeria, Babylon. So, and he's fighting. So he's fighting, the symbolically fighting in Babylon. And I just talked about it in my last video. Yeah, my last video maybe about when I did about the Pantheon. When I'm talking about this dual work in this realm of Egypt and Sumeria, Babylon, where we might be seeing the dark and the light. And so, is this being portrayed? Mark is attempting to be, I guess, I don't know, taken by the ancient Egyptians and fighting the Sumerians. I mean, you have to look at it in these very strange possibilities of this of the symbolism that's in this book. He's recruited by a French pilot named Duchamp, and they start working together on assignments. Eventually, he also meets a CIA operative. Then this CIA operative later gets a costume himself, and he becomes Jack-o'-lantern and becomes another villain, and then a villain, I guess, eventually he becomes named Hobgoblin. Uh, okay, whatever. Um, then we find Mark has a brother, Randall Spector, and he also becomes a mercenary, but is apparently the opposite to Mark, and I guess, is some kind of evil. And while in Italy, so here we go, we connect. It happens in Italy. Randall kills Mark's girlfriend Lisa, and they have I guess the two of them battle. Mark thinks Randall has died, but doesn't. Okay, so here's our initial opening. It then goes on to say that that Frenchie. Oh yeah. So the French mercenary and Mark meet another mercenary named Raoul Bushman, who recruits them to do a number of certain jobs. Um, and there's, I guess, stories where he goes to Sudan to try to quell a rebellion. Um, while on one of the elements, because this Bushman is portrayed again as this evil individual, kills. Remember, I said kills this archaeologist, of which who had just unearthed the tomb along with his daughter. The idea being is that Bushman wants to loot the tomb and kill any witnesses, but Spectre kills the person, um, and oh no, I guess Spectre's defeated. I'm sorry, he's injured and is left abandoned in the desert without food or shelter. Um, but he makes his way to civilization, collapsing near death, and locals carry him into a tomb and leave him before a statue of Consu, the moon god, protector of travelers at night. Marlene, the daughter, realizes Mark saved her life earlier and prepares to mourn him as his heart stops. So we've got the little bit of the Jesus scene happening, right? He's taken into a tomb, into a cave. Marlene is representing the Magdalene. Um, so so we now have to ask how much of ancient Egypt is in the Christ story. Of course, I know quite a bit, but again, it's why Kansu? Why why are they picking? Why would the comic? Because this comes from the comic book creators. Why would the comic book creators want this Egyptian deity, and especially one because Mark is going to be brought back to life, you might say. Um, it doesn't make any sense why this would be the choice. This is not a resurrector god. Anyway, all of a sudden, moments later, Mark Spector revives, fully healed, claims to have seen the moon god Consu and chosen to act as his new knight of vengeance in the fist of Consu. Marlene believes, of course, this is a dream, but Mark takes a silver hooded cloak from the statue of Consu and adopts it as its own. But his brother watches all this, um, goes to the statue, and tries to also be blessed with power and have all his wounds healed. But when nothing happens for him, he becomes envious and jealous, and wants to kill off his brother. So now we've got playing out in the Mark Randall story. If you follow this along more than this, you will see that we're now watching the Osiris Set story play out. So now we will see Mark as Osiris, and this Randall will be Set, who will attempt to and eventually kill his brother and lock him. I think he even gets locked away in a tomb or a cave or a casket or something like that. Exactly what happened to Osiris. Eventually, Osiris gets revived. Combination of the help of the searching and the power of Isis, along with the power of Tahuti, and Osiris is resurrected long enough for the virgin impregnation to happen, and then baby Horus can be born, that which will avenge his father. So all of this is placed into the story. You can see just not the way it would normally be placed in. It's put in some goofy ways. So either the creators of the comic book really didn't fully understand all the Egyptian symbolism they were using, really didn't know the mythology or didn't really care. They were just whatever worked fine for their story, or they did know this really fully and were trying to disguise it, trying to hide a little bit of what they were presenting in the book. Albeit, if you knew enough ancient Egyptian mythology, you would catch it all right away. But if you didn't, you wouldn't. So I can go through this. I mean, I suggest you read it on your own. I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and just keep reading this thing for hours and hours and hours on you. But you can go through like volume one and read exactly how he becomes Moon Knight and why. And they, of course, they always have to wear the bodysuit. They always have to wear this special suit when they're in their superhero um, garb. It talks about how his one character becomes a taxi driver in order to get information off the street, and how he befriends someone named Bertrand Crawley, a former textbook salesperson who's now homeless, and becomes like his street informant. And that's a real. There's something about that to me that's a real red flag kind of thing that's indicating there's not much mentioned about this character too much on the internet when you look about it, this Bertrand Colley, the homeless person. But I think there's a really important symbolistic message wrapped up in that character. And again, if I get some of the comics and I can look into exactly what was being presented with this character, it might reveal itself. It goes through listing the number of battles and things that happens to him. Um, anyway, by the time we get to the second of two and it becomes the Fist of Consu, I think that's where his brother Randall eventually kills him, or maybe it's in the third one. I'm not third series. I'm not sure, but kills him, right? But we add what's called Consu's rival. He joins with a group called the West Coast Avengers. Yeah, and uh, and these Avengers are attacked by soldiers working for Consu's rival, Seth. They call it Seth here, but we know that's Set, the the you know the brother of Osiris who takes over, and he is invading Asgard. Now, this is also very interesting because Asgard is the name from Germanic / North particularly North mythology of sort of like what would you call it? Like uh, a, a deep a realm in the north, or a place where it's hard for me to describe because I'm not, I don't have even though I live now in Norway, I don't have Norse mythology again totally on my head. But if you look up Asgard, you can see the story of Odin and Thor and, Yasmir and Loki, and how this all relates to the Asgardian legend. But that's a part of this comic book. And Norse mythology, when I did look at Norse mythology, maybe, well, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, I did dig into it for a while. And I mean, it's ancient Egyptian, just with a more harsh edge, with a more battle-oriented edge to it, you might say. But it's the same thing. Also, in a bizarre story, so Set is showing up in the book, and now we have Consu this wanting Spectre as Moon Knight to battle Set, which is there's the Osiris Set story. So now, once Osiris was dead, it was Horus who's constantly fighting Set, and it's a very, very long tale of all the battles that go on between Horus and Set, until finally Horus realizes that he can't win the battle by fighting. He wins the battle by subduing Set, realizing Set is not external to him. Set is his internal, is his mind, his parasitic mind. And he learns how to control and contain the mind when he controls, very similar to Shanti Deva in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which is a key description of the way you tame and control the external world is you tame and control your own mind. Once you've controlled your mind, and you, or since lassoed your mind, or you know have control of your mind, you have control of the external reality. But the other thing that Moon Knight does in this second series is he defeats a villainous priest of Anubis, and I'm just going to read it what it says here. He defeats a villainous priest of Anubis, the god of death. Anubis is not the god of death. Anubis is, and particularly in his form of Upawat, is that which who will be your guide in the afterlife. It's Anubis slash Upawat, opener of the ways, who supposedly after death will be, if you've done the right things, will be able to offer you the right pieces of information that will allow you to navigate and not get trapped in regions of the Duat. That's a huge part of particularly the Book of Caverns and the Book of Gates. Even the Book of What is in the Duat, but the Book of Caverns and the Book of Gates specifically, Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom texts that you'll find on the walls of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. These are texts designed where not to get trapped in the afterlife. And you, of course, it's also giving you setups of how to practice not being trapped in similar things in this reality, so that you might say you are trained when you get there. Once you get to the other side, it will be Upawat, a form of Anubis, who will be your guide and helper for a part of your journey. So why would Moon Knight want to defeat a villainous priest of Anubis? Because again, it's blocking out this idea then of who these Egyptian, again, they're not gods, they're Neturu. Neturu means they're like a form of nature. They're like an energetic component of the universe. Um, they're their existence within the realm. They're not necessarily gods, but in the way we try to think of them, that's a westernized, modern westernized concept. They are elements of this realm that interact with the realm, manifest the realm, that hold the realm together, that make it move, make it change. And if you understand that, and you know how to connect with those Neturu, you know to connect with those, what would you call them, original elements, then you, in a sense, are at the same creator point. You are one with those which are, we'll call it, moving the simulation, right? If we say it that way. So why we want to show these true elements of creation in such a bad way, again, is it just by chance the comic book writers' original ideas, and they were just taking whatever ideas they could find from mythology that sounded interesting to them to make a comic book? Or are they revealing something in very hidden form that you have to switch it around to know what they're telling you? Or are they trying to take things and actually destroy them and take them apart and block people? Now, again, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the third one is what's happening now with the television show and whatever's going to come out around it, because of it's a part of everything, all this other disclosure that's going on. I mean, the boatload of movies and television shows that are coming out and have come out in the last year about the nature of reality and how it's controlled, who controls it, parallel worlds, computer simulations, non-reality. I mean, it's blowing itself everywhere. And I think it's by design. This stuff is, for whatever reason, right? This reality is ready to end itself. One way or another, this is about ready to end. Whether it continues and what form it continues, we don't know. But this at least this part of the experiment is ending for sure. And as it ends, I don't think it can end without a complete revelation of the whole thing to this point and the nature of the whole thing to this point. So but it's not going to be just written on a blackboard for you and you just go read it and oh wow there you go. It's like the stuff's going to be around. It's going to be pushed out piece by piece by piece, and people have to have the willingness and have to be on a quest. They have to be on their own internal quest of knowledge and understanding of truth in order to catch what's there. But please don't try to catch everything. Don't start watching every television. Don't jump from Westworld to Moon Knight to this movie to that movie. I mean, seriously, catch a few. Get that some stuff is pointing you in a particular direction, and then just move in that direction. Don't get caught don't get caught with the messenger, right? Don't get caught staring at the finger pointing at the moon. Focus on the moon. That's that ancient Asian saying, right? So these things, like these television shows we're talking about, they're just the finger pointing at the moon. They're not the moon. They're not the thing that they are revealing. They're not the thing that's available for you to know. Focus on that. Use the finger for a while to point you in the right direction, and then keep working to understand where it's pointing to. Okay, I'm going to stop there because, I mean, literally, I could just, go on and on with this. It's wild. I want to keep this to something that's reasonable. Look into it further if you want. The next episode this is not a TV show. The next chapter I'm going to do in this series, I'll talk about my experiences at the Temple of Consu. So I'm going to go in extreme detail of my time there, show the photographs, and discuss how that might be related to the book and the television show and this Consu idea. So thanks for tuning in. Let's keep doing this as much as possible. I'm going to be doing something with Bart Marshall next month. I thought I should let you all know that. Bart and I have decided to have a one-day, I'll call it teaching session, but a one-day sharing session. Let's put it that way, where each of us will share some things with you and take questions. So that'll be a one-day thing at the end of the month. We're just getting the date and the title and everything. Once I've got all of that ready and we're ready to go, and you can start signing up for it. We're going to keep it very, very cost affordable. So it's everybody who wants to be able to join us should be able to. So end of May anyway, Bart and I will be doing a one-day online sharing experience. A couple more videos or interviews I've done. The links will be below. You can go check them out as well if you feel like it. I'm doing two more, I think, in the course of the week, and then then my schedule opens up completely. And what I'm curious, because again, I think time is minimal now. So if you guys have an idea of someone to be interviewed by or a podcast you think I'd be good on, and I'm looking now for ones that are not necessarily in these fields, like the kind of people who would normally interview me. I'm looking for someone who's on the edge of that, someone who's got a pretty big following and who is normally might not have someone like me on. I think that now is a really good opportunity to open, whether it be with the expositions, with information about reality, Plato's cave, whatever, but to start sharing in a way with now with a bigger and bigger audience to try to get some of this information beyond the sort of group of standard seekers of who are, the group of whatever, the 50 million people in the world who are interested in these topics. And can we start moving into the next 50 million, the next 100 million that's on the fringes but haven't really fully bumped into this material yet? So if you have ideas there, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, I got a couple more interviews to do. I keep working on the novel every day now, and I guess we'll see you guys in another 3 or 4 days. Thanks for suggestions, support, for the donations, for buying books, for mentioning me to other people, to just being a part of the community of what we're doing here, of trying to figure things out. It's appreciated, and it's good to know we have a few thousand of us moving forward, and I think we're going to get challenged in another new way. The Joker card I talked about, the Joker card, there's that Nephilim clown mythology or symbolism. It's close to being played. It's really close to being played. So be prepared. Don't be frightened. Be clear. Have courage. Be clear minded, and just be ready for the unexpected, so that the unexpected doesn't throw you. As long as you don't get bowled over by the unexpected, you can handle it. If you stay clear, you'll get the right information. You'll get the right messages and know what to do, know where to go, how to be. But if you get overwhelmed, if you get emotionally overwhelmed by surprise, like the majority of people are going to be, then you won't become much valuable to you or other people. So stay clear, stay focused, stay ready for the unexpected, and we'll see you in a few days. Cheers.